Now I have my ring blank. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that it is the right size. Now I'm going to put a couple of slides in here. They're also in your printable section so that you can print them out and keep them as references. There are different ways to achieve your ring size. If you will measure and you will know your ring size, now unfortunately, a lot of the rings, blanks that you get, not blanks, but the measurements, the round rings you get, sometimes they're a little bit off, and sometimes they're even a little bit off from a ring mandrel. So one of the best ways to do it is to take something flat, like a strip of paper, measure your finger, okay, determine the size. You can buy the little measurement things that are paper, and you slide them through a slot, and it says this is a 7, an 8, a 9, and all the sizes in between. Once you have that circumference, and you could even trust, something, a measuring device such as this that's flexible. You can trust it to a degree, but what I would do is maybe try it a time or two just to see how accurate it is. And then once you have the interior circumference of the ring, then you're going to add the width. So you would either need to use the caliper to determine the width of the metal, add that onto the length, and then you're going to multiply it times pi, 3.1416. Now that seems like a lot of math, and if you're like me, sometimes I just want the easy way. So there is an app that I use frequently called I Make Jewelry. I keep it on my phone, and I'm also putting a slide in there in reference to what you will see when you go onto that app. And on that app, there's tons of reference tools on there, just reference items. So if you go into the reference section and you see ring sizes, that's just a reference of different sizes and conversions and things of that nature. But then if you will tap calculator at the bottom, there are a lot of different calculators that you can use there. And then you will see a list that says ring size. You can go in there, tap that. You can put the thickness of your metal in or the gauge, because it does allow you the option. Being in the US, we use gauge. So if you do not want to have to convert your gauge to the thickness, then you simply put your gauge in. You put your ring size in. Now, if you're doing a ring that is over 4 millimeters wide, you're going to have to add 0.5 millimeter to that length in order to make it long enough. The wider a ring is, the less movement it will have on your finger. Now also, because we are texturing this ring and it's going to displace metal and move it apart, it's going to lengthen our blank once we cut it. So we are going to cut it one time, and then we're going to texture it, and then right before we fuse or solder it, we're going to double check that our length is correct so that we don't have a lot of change. If you are not putting a heavy texture on your ring, for instance, if you're doing a very, very smooth texture, then you will want to measure one time, just double check it at the end, and file it smooth or sand it smooth to make sure that it's got a good flush joint. Also, if you're not putting a hammered texture on there, if you're putting some sort of linear texture, be mindful of which way you're adding that texture. If you're adding texture with a linear hammerhead, the metal is going to displace this way, and this way, but not this way and this way. So if you're putting this end to end, if this were your ring blank and you were texturing this way, definitely it's going to stretch it out end to end. However, if you're adding a texture in this direction, it's going to make your blank wider and not longer. So those are considerations when texturing your ring blank. But I'm going to put these slides in here. I'm going to discuss them just a little bit, and they are in your printables section. So by all means, print them out for your reference. Take the time to check out the I Make Jewelry app, and I Make is one word. So I Make Jewelry app, and you can download on that on your phone, have it handy as a reference, or your iPad. So we're going to take a minute here, and we're going to determine what the width, or the length we want our blank, and then we're going to measure it and we're going to cut that out. Hi, have you determined your ring length? Now mine is 59.13 according to the calculator. However, it is wider than 4 millimeters. So on to that, I'm going to need 0.5 millimeters added on. So I'm going to take my caliper. Now remember, when you're using a caliper, to always make sure that it's at 0 before you start to make your measurement. So I'm going to open it up, make sure I've got it on 0 like I said. I'm going to open it up to 59.13. Now that's real finicky. So now I'm going to add half, so that would be 59.63. Whoops, it's a little stuck there. There we go. I have my straight end, and I'm just going to scratch that end on there. Make sure I got it good and scratched in. Okay, I have my line. Now I'm going to saw that or cut it with a shear, and then I'll have a nice flush end. So you do that as well, and we'll go on to the next step.